Hello, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar. My name is Dominika Dawson, and I'll be your host for today's session. A lot of you asked from previous SAP HANA Cloud webinars that you would like to see a demo or some getting started materials, how it all works and what's the journey for our customers. So thank you so much for your feedback. And based on that, we decided to host a session on getting started with SAP HANA Cloud. And today's presenter for today's webinar is Dominique North. Dominique is a product manager with SAP HANA Cloud. And today's session should be really, really cool. Most of it will be a demo. We'll show you where to find a lot of resources, what the product looks like, and stuff like that. So there's a lot to look forward to for today. Before I pass it over to Dominique, I would like to go over some of the housekeeping items just to make sure we are happy and familiar with the webinar console space. So first thing I'll mention is there's two windows on your screen. There's a window called Slides, and then there's another window called Media Player. So all the slides that we'll have, there's not much today, but a couple of slides that we'll go over will be shown in your slide box. And then when you're ready to share, show your demo and kind of share our screen where all the resources will be, that will be in the media player box on your screen. So I'll remind you once we're there, but just so you're not confused, there's two boxes on your screen. One is for slides, and then one is where we'll be sharing our screen. Next thing is, well, we love your questions, so please send us your questions at any point during the webinar. There's a Q&A box on your screen, and you can send your questions over there, and we'll have a Q&A segment at the end, and then we'll pick from some of the questions that you'll send over, and then we'll answer as many as we can. So don't hesitate to take this advantage. We have Dominique here, who's an expert, so make sure to ask your questions there. And then another last thing is a resources box that is on your screen. If you're interested in more SAP HANA Cloud webinars or any additional resources about HANA Cloud, SAP HANA Cloud, you can access it from there. But we'll also show you in this webinar other ways to learn about SAP HANA Cloud. All right, so, and then the last thing I'll mention is our survey. So as from the previous webinars, it really helps us knowing what you guys think and what you like about what you would like to learn about SAP HANA Cloud. So do let us know what you think about today's session in our survey. It's only 2 questions. It shouldn't take too long, and you can access the survey by clicking on the 3 smiley faces on the bottom toolbar of your screen, and you can fill it out anytime during the webinar or after the webinar. So do let us know what you think. All right, so that is it for the introduction, and I'll pass it over to Dominique now to kick it off. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction, and also a warm welcome from my side. I'm glad you joined to get some more information on SAP HANA Cloud, and I hope I can give you some more deeper insights and also to show you some demo where you can really see on a live system with all the pleasure of a live demo how this works. But as a starting point, I would like to start with at least some slides to have a kind of summary what SAP HANA Cloud is, and also then as a kind of basis for the demo as well, because then I can explain something later on what is part of the functionality here. So let's. I have a really short agenda. I will introduce SAP HANA Cloud just with 2 slides. Then we'll show you some recommended documentation, and then I will show you on the system how you can provision it and how you can use it and what can be the benefits of at least some of the features. And it's not on the agenda, but I hope we will have some minute left for Q&A. So short overview, what is SAP HANA Cloud? And first of all, and I think that's a really important point, it's a HANA engine. So it's HANA as you know it, with all the capabilities, or at least most of the capabilities you know from on-prem. I think we improved it a little bit to be more cloud ready. So there are some new features, and maybe there are some features less or removed, which are not necessary for a cloud product. Or we have a different solution for that here in the cloud. And what we did around the HANA engine is that we complemented a little bit with some nice features, especially also compared with the previous HANA services we have, and you might know already. Seeing there are, let's say, kind of 3 previous versions, and compared with them, we did a huge step in improving and making it more cloud ready as the other products might be. So what did we do to achieve that, and also what are the areas where I wanted to invest even more in the future? So on the left hand side we see the part with the virtualization. I think that that's a really important part, especially when we also look in the next slide where I talk about the use cases. And so here, what does it mean? In the end, we have virtual tables in HANA Cloud, and we can connect to remote data sources. That can be HANA on-Prem, or it can be another cloud source, or whatever. We are quite open to that. It could be Athena or Google BigQuery or whatever. So we can connect to that, and then you have the choice to decide if you want to access this data virtual, meaning the data resists where it is located, and you will access the data at the remote source level. So no replication is done. But then also you might find out that at some point in time, maybe for parts of the data, the performance is not as you would expect it. So we have the option also to replicate data. So can replicate, of course, all of it, or you can replicate parts of it. And I will also show this in the demo later on. So, meaning we are quite flexible, but in terms of data handling, let's say. So we can access that virtually, or we can replicate the data into HANA Cloud. And here also the other major improvement helps handling that, and that's the persistence level. And here, compared with the old HANA services or the previous HANA services, we have a much broader variety of storage options. For the HANA service, you only had the memory piece, and here with HANA Cloud, we have, of course, memory, because that's the main or the key advantage of HANA, to be in memory. But we also implemented or put in the native storage extension. This was introduced with HANA on-Prem last year with SPS 04, and now we also have this as part of HANA Cloud. And it's a kind of a tiering option. And the advantage here is that it is part of the HANA engine. So it's part of the index server, so no additional service or setup is needed. It's part of HANA itself. And here you can decide which part of your data you want to store on a disk. So that would be kind of a disk extension of your HANA. When you can say you have data which is not so heavily touched, but still should be part of the HANA Cloud system, then you can decide if you want to store tables, columns, partitions on disk. And then if the application asks for exactly these kind of data, then HANA knows where the data is and will load the data from disk into the buffer cache, which is then part of your HANA in memory, and then can process the data. So that's the advantage here is that you can either have a bigger HANA Cloud instance, because you can extend the in-memory piece with kind of a disk storage, and or you can reduce your TCO, because you say, if you say I don't need that too much or not that much performance of the memory piece, then you can have the native storage extension to reduce the TCO as well. And the last thing we integrated into HANA Cloud is the relational data lake. So here, that's separate systems, technically spoken, and but as part of the HANA Cloud provisioning, and I will show you this as part of the demo. You can can add this into or integrate this into your HANA Cloud system, and then we also establish the connections between HANA and the data lake automatically, which means this is seen as a whole system, but technically, of course, separate systems. And here you have a huge amount of storage space, and also the option to connect to S3 or whatever. So it's almost unlimited what you can store here. And when we kind of look at the storage temperature, I think that the term we use here, then of course for all the hot data, meaning all the important data you need to access frequently, then you put it in memory. Then you have the next option, the NSE, is for warm data. It's frequently used, but not as frequent as the in-memory part. So you can put these data on disk, and then you have the cold data in the data lake. So here, really massive data and all part of HANA Cloud. I think that's a huge improvement compared with the previous product. And of course, we are really working on that, improving this in the future. So I think you all know the product is quite new, and there is definitely more to come in our strategic product for the future. So what are the use cases we think of, and also in discussions with customers? What do customers think HANA Cloud can be used? And of course, that's the accelerate into the cloud. So meaning you already have your on-premise landscape available, but maybe you're reaching the limits, and you have two options: either buy new hardware to extend your on-premise landscape, or you can grow into cloud using HANA Cloud. And then you can combine your on-premise landscape with HANA Cloud to fulfill maybe performance needs either for monthly enclosing, yearly enclosing, kind of these peak loads where you can put data and data modeling and executions on HANA Cloud, and so to free up your on-premise landscape. So this is a hybrid approach. I think this is something a lot of customers will use. So that they have a combination of your on-premise landscape and the cloud landscape. The next one would be the centrally store and manage data, meaning we have everything in HANA Cloud, also using the data lake, and have it as your single solution for all your data. I think that's also, of course, a valid solution. And the next one would be the access layer, so kind of a hub for your data. So I was in the discussion with the customer who said, okay, I have a new solution, and I have a legacy product, but I still want to access that and don't have kind of different experience. And here we can do that with HANA Cloud, accessing just those tools, those data, and then they can use it with a single access via HANA Cloud, do the modeling, and so on. So this is also one of the use cases we can imagine. And then, of course, it is a database. It's a HANA, so general purpose database with all its capabilities, OLTP, OLAP, everything in place. So I think that's really also an option. Use this as your database, using our development infrastructure, using Web IDE and Cloud Foundry to build your own applications on top. So this is also, of course, a valid use case. So, and that's actually it from the slide area. And now I would like to start with, first of all, where can you find documentation, information around HANA Cloud? So I think that's really important. And here we offer, let's say, kind of two areas, and I would like to show you them. And afterwards, we jump into the system and we see how this looks like in reality. So I will share my screen.
And while Dominique is sharing his screen, I would just like to mention real quick that you can see the demo once it's loading right now, but once it's up there, you should see it in the media player box on your screen. and feel free to maximize it or move the boxes around if it's not big enough for you. So just a small note there. And Dominique, just confirming we can see your screen now, so go ahead.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. So, and the first web page I would like to mention is here the HANA Cloud Services web page, where you can find information around HANA Cloud, Database Cloud, or also working on HANA Cloud Day, so that's why I also do so. So HANA Cloud, here you can get a high-level overview on HANA Cloud. You can find some videos explaining information and features and what you can do with that. Short videos, really just to introduce the functionality. You can also go into solutions, data landscape, and check for a standalone cloud or a hybrid solution. Then get further information on that, really how this looks like end to end and how you can work with that. I think it's really a good overview to understand how the products can be used and also get the big picture and not so much technical information which you afterwards need to set it up and to operate the solution. But to get an idea, also onboarding guide, here you find a lot of information, getting started, data integration, data management. So really an overview and starting point to get information around HANA Cloud. I think that's a really good page here, and you find a lot of information here. And we are working from the product management, working closely together with the colleagues here to deliver also more content in the future. Right? And some of you already know this page because they use the webinar section here to find webinars around HANA Cloud or the other products, and that's the one you're already in. So that's the one of today. And you can also see there are other sessions to come in the future, and I think that will be also extended. So that's the one section I wanted to show you. And then if you're ready to start with HANA Cloud and you need really technical information, then you can go to the help portal. And also here, the product management and development, they are working closely together with documentation teams. So documentation is part of that. So really that's a close connection, and we are constantly working on improving the documentation and do as much as possible to enable you to use the product in an easy way. So in the help portal, just type in HANA Cloud. And then we can suggest the product, SAP HANA Cloud, click on it, and then you get it separated by topics, or you can just say, I want to see all, then you have just one page. In the Discover area, that's a good one to find, okay, what features are part of HANA Cloud right now. So it's not roadmap, but it's really what is in right now with the release, which is currently productive. Then getting started, the SAP HANA Cloud Getting Started Guide. If you go in, then you get really basic information on the introduction of HANA Cloud. So what are the storage options? What is the architecture? And so on. What are the sizing examples? And so on. Yeah, that's a really good starting point. Then getting information on creating SAP HANA Cloud instances, how you can do this in the Cloud Cockpit. We will see this in a couple of minutes when I do my demo. Creating tables, connecting to SAP HANA Cloud. So what are the options? Managing your HANA Cloud instance, and so on. Really, so an overview, getting started with all the details behind. So really, that's the guide to go if you need deep information on getting started. Then we have the section on HANA Cloud Security and compatibility reference. And then also this one is an important one, the HANA Cloud Administration Guide. Here you also get some more information on, as it says, system administration. You can also see some information about development infrastructure or the use of the smart data access for accessing remote data sources. I think we will also see this then in a part of these I will use in my demo in the system. So I think that's really a good section where you can get deep information on how to work with HANA Cloud, how to set it up, and I really recommend to use that, and it is really constantly updated. My colleague is every day working on that, getting the latest news from development, put it into the guide, so that this is always up to date with the version which is productive. So yeah, very good. So next step would be, how can I get a HANA Cloud instance? And for that, I will jump into the SAP Cloud Platform Cockpit. So here, of course, you need an account. Can't show you that, and then you need some entitlement for that. So you have your account team, working with our account team to get the right entitlement for the products you want to use in the SAP Cloud Platform. And now we are in here. I have everything set up. I have my sub account. I have my space and so on. And I will jump into my space. And then I will see on the left-hand side that it's also a change to previous versions. We have HANA Cloud Prominent on the left-hand side. So no need to go to the Service Marketplace. You can directly click on HANA Cloud. And then you see your currently existing instances. So I have already one which is currently stopped. And I will create a new one. So for that, I just click on Create Instance. Then I get a guided procedure to do so. Let's say just a really fancy name it demo. Then you have to provide a password. Very nice. And then you can size your HANA Cloud instance, and that's the first part is really the HANA part. And here currently, for the moment, you can just decide on the memory piece. You need to know how much gigabytes you know. For that, we also have a calculator in place where you can say or define what kind of how much data you want to store, and then it gives you recommendations on the sizing here. And so here you can see that you only can choose for the moment the memory piece, and we will automatically on the ratio put in the right amount of virtual CPUs and the right amount of storage to work with that. So in the future, it is planned to have this individually, but for the moment, we can only do it in this way. But that's why we also separated already, because we want to be ready in the future to offer also systems where customers say, I don't need that much memory, but I need more compute because I have heavy workloads, so I need more compute. And there we want to be ready, and I think that it's on the roadmap to be independent between memory, compute, and also, of course, storage, especially if you want to use NSE then, right? So next step is then the data lake, and you see it is an optional, so it's not you don't need to do so, or you don't need to use a data lake. But when we say, okay, we want to use one, and here you already see here we can set up our size, the data lake independent of compute, and you see here also the different areas of the compute power, and then we can also define the storage independently. So that's we can do. I think for the moment I will keep the smallest one. And next step is kind of security area where we do the IP whitelisting. You can do this also afterwards, but here you can decide if you know you only live in our SAP Cloud Platform because you are working with Web IDE or other SAP Cloud Platform services, then you can deny all other external IP addresses except the SAP Cloud Platform. And then your instances are blocked from all connections from the outside, but you can use them with all the SAP Cloud Platform services. Next would be to allow all IP addresses, meaning it is completely open to the world. So it's really completely open. Or I think that's the one we would recommend is to specify IP ranges, so you know your external remote data sources. You want to connect all your applications from other cloud services or from on-prem who wants to access HANA Cloud. Then you know these IP addresses, you can specify them, and then only from these IP addresses HANA Cloud can be accessed from the outside world. I will keep with that, so that's fine for me. And then I say create instance, and so I see here that's my new instance creating and starting up, and here as well my data lake. And because I don't want to wait for that for the moment, I will use another system for the rest of the demo, and then if you have time, we will come back to see if this system is correctly started. So for the moment, I will switch to another area. So I will use it from a colleague. Because here's our demo. So again, SAP HANA Cloud. And we see here's also two HANA instances, one with data lake, one without data lake. And when we look at that, so here you see what is my sizing. I have a data lake, yes, that's the name, so I can find it here. If I have more than one, I know which data lake connects to which HANA instance, what is the admin user, short description. That's important. That's the endpoint. You need that if you want to connect applications or whatever to HANA Cloud, then this is the way to connect to. So SQL connections via these endpoints. Edit and delete. Then of course we can stop it, but we don't want that because we want to use this for the demo. And then we have two options. We can open it in the SAP HANA Cockpit. Let's try that to show you how this looks like. So with each HANA Cloud instance, also a cloud version of the HANA Cockpit is set up and configured. So here you can, I think most of you are used to the HANA Cockpit already from on-prem, and this is more or less the same thing. There are also only some features removed which are not available in the cloud, like system application or something like that, which you can't do here. So these functionalities are not shown here, but the rest should be, as you know, from on-prem. And you can see what is set up in terms of SDI connections, for example, you see that, or smart data access as well. You have some statements, and as you know from on-prem, you can also move these tiles around to design your HANA Cockpit as you want to have it. So there's no difference from what you know from on-prem. The other option is to open it in the HANA Database Explorer. I already did that, and I hope I'm not timed out so far, but let's see. So in here, I want to start with some demo around the options, what you can do with HANA Cloud, especially in terms of connection to other data sources, and see also the difference between virtual access and the replicated access. And what we have here is our HANA Cloud instance. And we also can see here we have a section which is called Remote Sources. And here we already configured some remote sources to external data sources. Let's wait a second. Or two. That takes long. That's good. Let's see. Okay. Let's restart that and see if this is working. As I said at the beginning, that's always the nice part of having a live demo. Try it this way. Maybe we are lucky. No, we aren't. Okay, let's try something else. But I think it was working the whole day, as usual. No way, it's not working. Try something else. Maybe this works. Let's see. Ah. Okay, I found a solution. Okay, perfect. We are back in the game. Here we have our cloud, HANA Cloud instance, and when I open the catalog, then I can go to the remote source area, and here you see we created as part of the demo a few remote sources. It's Athena, it's Azure SQL, Azure SQL, it's BigQuery, it's HANA on-Prem, and it's our data lake as a remote source. And for example, when we start with Athena, we can directly access that. So click on that, and then we can see the different schema names and that from Athena, right? So the connection is established, and we can use that. Next would be what want we to do. So the demo, the purpose of the demo is to show you first a joint selection between or from this Athena and a combination, a join with some local tables, and to see how this works. So that's a completely virtual access. So that's nothing is replicated right now. And when we look at the tables, for example, here we have our virtual tables. So these are created as part of our data fabric schema in HANA Cloud. And so you see data fabric, then Athena, and our local orders. And when I execute that, then it will take a while, and then I see my results. I see here some information coming from Athena, and some information are coming from my orders, so from my local table. So that's the joint results, and I can see, okay, for methods, this took in 900 or almost 1 second, and that's not that bad. So we also had the result where this was much higher, but now we want to see how this could be improved when we do a replication of the data from Athena. And for that, we can create a replica of the Athena data into our HANA Cloud as a virtual table. So I will create that. I will create this replica here. So it also will take a while. And now we would assume that the performance of the selection should be much faster, because we're now accessing a replica of this remote data here. So let's execute that again. Same results, and 30 milliseconds. So as an example, you see there's a huge difference, and we can also check and do the explain plan. And here you can see that our data coming from Athena is coming from a table replica, auto-generated replica. So this is the data which was accessed because our HANA Cloud knows that there is a local replica of this virtual remote source available, and access then that as an alternative to the virtual table. So I think that that's just one example of how this looks like, and how we can improve. So next example would be, and that's also a nice one, is to connect to HANA on-Prem. And let's see, Yeah. Okay. So here we have also a table, and here I need to check my other Database Explorer because I also have a Database Explorer where I run my HANA on-prem system. So this is a system which is running on-prem, and this is connected to our HANA Cloud instance. And what we can do is we can. Oh no, that's the wrong browser. Sorry. Need to use this one. Sorry. What we can do is we have here also a virtual table for this HANA on-prem, and what we can do is we can just execute this select, and then we can see, okay, we have this as the data coming from the on-prem system. To see this as well, 1 second. What I will do is, come on. I will copy that as well too. I don't need to switch the browsers all the time. So we can't keep here. So you see here the same information from the table T1 in our local system. So then, of course, what we can do is we can add some information from our HANA Cloud instance into our on-prem system. So you can just add another value, which is, let's say, 24, and we can execute that, and then we should find that as well in our table T1. So you saw that was executed on HANA Cloud and was inserted on-prem. What we also can do is, of course, we can also do a replica of this table into our HANA Cloud instance. And here, this is really what I want to show you is that it is a kind of a real-time replication, because we create once this replica, and then if you change the value in our on-prem system, then you will see the result automatically also in the virtual table on HANA Cloud. So I will, first of all, I will create our replica from our virtual tables. I'll set up the replication. So it is now established. And so, for example, also when we execute now this statement again, then we can also see that we have the new result. And also, when we look at the explain plan, is that now HANA Cloud automatically access the data not virtual anymore, but with this replicated table. Yeah. So, and okay. So what we can do now, or what I can show you now, is that I will go back to my on-prem system, and I will insert a value here. And then we will check if we can see this new value also in our replicated table in HANA Cloud. So enter 24. Oh, okay, right. And then we execute it. So let's check on the local table. We now have the new value of 25. And now we go back to our HANA Cloud instance. Sorry, and of course, if I execute this statement again, then I will also see the 25. And when I see the explain plan, then it's still our replicated table, and I can also check here and access the replicated table directly. And then I also see the 25, and that's the local table in HANA Cloud. So this shows that replica is working, and it's really a real-time replication of the data coming from the on-prem system. And so that's the last demo I want to show you is that this also works the other way around. So we also have the possibility, we are now in the on-prem system, to have a federated select, meaning we are accessing. So we are also, and that's I want to show you, is we have a remote source as well in our on-prem system, and that's our HANA Cloud instance. So on HANA Cloud is also a remote source for our on-prem system. And then also we have the we have virtual tables here describing, I have on the one hand the Athena customer and Google BigQuery, and we have here a joint statement selecting the top 100 of Athena data coming from Athena customer, Google BigQuery nation, and our orders table, which is the local one. So when I execute that, then you see we have the result is that's Athena coming. We have the Google BigQuery data, so the nation key, and we have our order data coming from the on-prem system. So the federation not only works from HANA Cloud to on-prem or to other cloud sources or remote sources, so it also works, for example, from on-prem using HANA Cloud as a remote source. And actually, that's it, what I wanted to show you. So I'm happy that it in the end worked out. So I think we have some time left for questions if there are any. So maybe I will stop sharing and yeah, Dominika, if you can help me with that. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dominique, for the demo. There is quite a few questions that came in throughout the webinar. You can select yourself if you like, or I can read the ones that are unanswered to you. Do you have a preference?
So it's a Q&A, right? So okay, what do we have?
I'll let you read a couple of those, Dominique, and there's a few that I would like to address. Some of the questions and comments that came in. So a few of you were asking if the slides or the demo will be available later, and the answer is yes. We'll send you an email with a link to the webinar recording about an hour or two after this live webinar is over. So it will be so you can review it and watch the webinar later or share with colleagues. So that's the main thing that I wanted to address. And Dominique, go ahead and feel free to pick questions from the list that we got.
Just take one here. There is a question regarding upgrade from HANA Service to HANA Cloud. Currently, we don't offer a migration currently, but we are working on that, and it's planned to be available in Q3 this year. That we can help you migrate your HANA Service instances. HANA Service in this terms means Cloud Foundry running on AWS. So for the newer instances, so HANA 1.0 running in SAP Data Center, this is still open because it's much more complex than the already existing instances. In Cloud Foundry for HANA Service Cloud Foundry, this is planned for Q3 this year to be available. So what do we have as well is... No, the question is HANA Cloud same as HANA Enterprise Cloud? No, HANA Enterprise Cloud is a kind of hosting option, and HANA Cloud is a fully managed service. Maybe I forgot to mention that in the beginning. So here really the offering is that we take care on all operations. So you just decide, and that's what I showed you, is that you do the sizing, you do the provisioning, and then you can work with your instance. So there is no monitoring needed from your side, no backup recovery. This is all done by us, and that's of course the difference a little bit. So yeah, so it's it's not running in the SAP data center. Currently, we are running on AWS and Microsoft Azure. There's a question regarding performance degradation between virtual access and native access, and I think this is difficult to answer. It really depends on the tables, and of course also on the network network connection. I think that's really something which needs to be analyzed in the system. So there's it's really there's no number or value I can tell. So that's I think it's of course, as you saw, I think the difference was not that big, of course, in my demo, but it was a difference, and I think it really depends on the table and of course of the SQL statement. Yeah, if you do like I did, select star or whatever, then of course you load a lot of data. So I think if you optimize your SQL statements, then you can improve a lot with that, of course. What do we have as well is... there's also a question if we recommend it for building a data warehouse. I think for data warehouse, we really have our data warehouse cloud, which is really the solution for that. I think, of course, you can build a kind of that using HANA Cloud, but I think as this application is already available with Data Warehouse Cloud, and actually Data Warehouse Cloud runs on HANA Cloud, I think the recommendation would be to really use Data Warehouse Cloud. And if you need data warehousing, then I think that because everything is already there, the modeling, the tooling, and so I think that's all there. So there definitely the recommendation would be use Data Warehouse Cloud. Next would be if you plan, so the current sizing is that the smallest instances, depending on Azure or the AWS, are 30 or 32 gigabytes. And the question is if we are also plan to offer smaller instances, and this is for the moment not the case. What you can do is, because that's still available, is schema and HDI containers. So if you want to separate that and want to have smaller instances, then currently the way of using HDI containers within HANA Cloud instance would be the only option to get smaller amounts. I think here currently it doesn't make really sense to have smaller instances. So 1 gigabyte, I think that wouldn't really work. So it would be an example here. So I think here for really HDI containers would be the solution for the moment. There's a question if it is possible to connect HANA Cloud to an existing ILM or open text. I must say no. I haven't seen an adapter for smart data access, but usually using SDI could work. But I don't know really the, for example, OpenText. So maybe we can discuss this also offline. SDI maybe could be a solution for that. SDA for the moment, I don't think, but I'm not sure. The question is regarding multiple instances on one space. How do I specify in my developments which instance HDI containers are stored? I must say I'm not an expert here in this area. I would assume that this can be done in the Web IDE, for example, where you connect your system and then Web IDE would create this directly. But here I'm definitely not an kind of development expert, so maybe also we need to follow up that. Yeah. What would can the SAP HANA Cloud instance be reused in multiple SAP Cloud Platform sub-account spaces? Here I don't know exactly what the question means. Of course, as I showed you, we have HANA Cloud instance has a SQL endpoint, so you can of course connect it to applications or whatever running different sub-accounts from SAP Cloud Platform. It's not that you can have one HANA Cloud instances directly in several sub-accounts. I think HANA Cloud instance depends on a sub-account and the space, and but of course can be used in other accounts if your application runs, for example, in a different account. Or good example, Web IDE currently runs on a Neo, which is definitely a different sub-account, and you can connect Web IDE to HANA Cloud to do your modeling and so on. Yeah. So, next. As far as I know, SOT is supported. Yeah, I would say SOT is supported right now. Yeah. Text analysis is, as far as I know, not available in HANA Cloud for the moment.
Maybe one more question, Dominic, you can wrap it up for today.
Okay. Then let's see what would be a nice one. Okay, which is the main purpose of HANA Cloud? I think I tried to explain that with the slides and the use cases. Of course, so there are several use cases where you can use HANA Cloud, and I showed you it could be a kind of a hub where you can access different data sources. As you saw, it could be Athena, it could be in HANA on-Prem, Google BigQuery, it could be whatever. Using SDI can be almost any data source you can connect, and then have a central access point where you can do your modeling on the data independently on which data source it really resists or where it comes from. Of course, you can create or build your own analysis tools using our development infrastructure to do data modeling using HANA Cloud for usage in SAC, for example. So there's really a variety of options where you can use HANA Cloud. I think for the most customers, a good starting point definitely is the extension of your on-prem world. I think most customers have an on-prem world, and to start with the cloud is to use a HANA Cloud instance for maybe their peak loads to really put some data on it, some data modeling to do analysis and some in the this is really one of the most use cases I saw so far in discussions with our customers. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much, Dominique. Thank you so much for the live demo and for all the questions that we got to get answered towards the end of the webinar. And thanks everyone so much for participating and joining us for today, spending an hour with us today. So that's really, really amazing and encouraging. I'll mention a couple more times. One more time that if you would like to see the webinar one more time or see the webinar one more time, we'll be sending you a link to the recording after this webinar in about an hour or so. And then one last thing I would mention is our survey. It really helps us a lot planning webinars that is useful to your job and that you find valuable. So do let us know what you thought about today's webinar and any future webinars that you would like to see in the survey. And you can access it by clicking on the 3 smiley faces on the bottom toolbar. So thank you again so much. Thank you so much, Dominique, for a great webinar. And we'll see you in the next webinar in a few weeks. Thank you.
Thank you.